3. So if we despise the show as much as we have made it out to be, can we take him out back and shoot him?
Yes.
Hello and happy Pride Month. Welcome to another episode of Queer Peer Reviews, where we will be reviewing queer media, good, bad, and ugly. Bruce and Jamie are in super hell. So today, I am your host. My name is Liv. My pronouns are any, all. I'm here with my co-host, Gratto.
Hello, my name is Gratto. I go by they, them pronouns. And today on Queer Peer Reviews, we will be introducing a new segment that is going to be reviewing your favorite and not so favorite films, shows, video games, and any and all, including your queer themes, characters, and more.
We'll be doing a new segment today, Queerbaiting, specifically in the hit television show Supernatural. Before we get started, obviously this video is going to contain spoilers for Supernatural, so if you haven't seen the absolute disappointment that was season 15, episode 20, get out of here.
You're also not missing much. You can look at it on GIFs on tumblr.com.
There is a
Not
GIF
sponsored.
for everything. Queerbaiting, basically, is when writers of television shows, movies, video games, etc., write two characters who may or may not be the same sex. They write them into what appears to be a queer relationship, or there's flirting, there is tension, there is something that gets viewers' hopes up that these two characters end up being queer. But they're not, and they either shoehorn in unnecessary details that are like, no, just kidding, they're not queer, or they do this whole runaround and
placating queer fans of the show who at this point have perhaps thought like, oh, maybe, just maybe, and given themselves hope that they could finally get some representation in the empty cookie jar of queer representation that modern media is still, even though we've come so far politically. And they just keep watching. They just keep watching and hoping, like, maybe someday, maybe this little tidbit from episode 3 of season 5 is what is going to allude to episode 6 in season 7 of them finally getting together. And it's just this very long runaround, and especially after 15 years, 9 for Castiel, you would hope and assume that finally they would make up their mind about it, but then they just kind of don't, but kind of did, but kind of don't. And we'll talk about that more because it was a very long show.
Early seasons of Supernatural feature a lot of gay jokes. There are lines such as when Dean walks into a motel and asks for a bedroom, the child who is running the desk is like, 2 queens or a king? And Dean says, 2 queens.
2 queens.
And he looks at Dean, he looks at Sam, and he says, yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, I'll bet. Sam, of course, is his brother. The characters that we are referring to today are going to be, oh my god. The characters that we're referring to today are Dean Winchester and also his brother Sam, who is a couple years younger than him. Their whole relationship is just also fetishized throughout the show, too, if you'd like to get to that.
Yes.
Sorry.
So Sam and Dean are often mistaken as a gay couple in the show, which sometimes they run with as a cover for their monster hunting shenanigans, but it is unfortunately how the ship Wincest came to be. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Winchester, incest. They have addressed it multiple times in the show and made fun of people who ship it, so
it gets very meta. It gets, yeah, that's why we're in green and blue. Mm-hmm. Those who know, and those who don't, please don't look it up. It's fine, it's just their eye color.
We could go into the history of Omegaverse and how that came to be, but I'm not trying to get this channel demonetized before we get monetized, so Google is free.
Google's free. Bleach your eyes after, and all the usual fun stuff that goes along with looking into any sort of AO3 tags.
Oh, one of my personal favorite homophobic lines in Supernatural is they do an episode surrounding fairy tales. After this big epiphany moment where Sam realizes that it has to do with fairy tale creatures, Dean, hard cut to Dean's face where he says, dude, could you be any more gay?
And that's it. That's the entire joke. That's the whole
joke.
Punchline, because the show started in 2005, so that was probably in between 2005 2009.
Yeah.
Peak height of homophobia randomly splashed along any sort of media that you could possibly have imagined. The show initially, the demographic was dude bros who wanted to see other dude bros in
with
flannel shirts
guns
listening to rock music from the 70s and 80s.
Music and driving cool cars and just being misogynistic until everything changed. Allow me to set the scene. September 18th, 2008. Dean Winchester is fucking dead.
So dead.
He's so dead.
Like in a coffin, underground.
Underground. He's dead.
Dead.
He's dead, and everyone's mourning him, and it's so, so sad because he died a horrible, horrible death at the end of season 3. And then we have the introduction of the character Castiel.
Castiel, who is an angel of the Lord. The show does delve a lot into, sorry.
Season 4 is when a lot of the religious undertones come into play because we have the introduction. Overtones. Themes. Outright. Outright, we meet God in the series.
We meet God. And that's just as much of a disappointment as literally anyone could have hoped for. And it only went downhill from there.
Oh, it was so bad for so long. So at the end of season 3, Dean goes to hell after selling his soul to save Sam. And season 4 is the introduction of Castiel, who was the angel who has raised him from perdition because God decided that Dean Winchester is just too special to die.
Because he has to stop the apocalypse, and that's where his savior complex really just hit the roof and kept going. The introduction of Castiel is interesting because we don't see him until the very end of the episode. He is alluded to through a handprint that has been burned into Dean's upper left arm? Yeah. Like Dean's like left deltoid or so. It is like very tender still. You can see that it is like a very raw wound, so you can imply that it came directly from why ever he has returned to this mortal coil from his time literally in hell, which in human years was about 40 years.
Yes.
He was only gone for, 6 months?
Yeah.
Actually, when Dean was raised from perdition by Castiel, who his motivations for that are both heavenly and also just, we kind of can assume, personal, it is revealed eventually that he has been completely healed of all of his life trauma in his body, not in his mind, in his body.
Did not heal the brain.
Did not heal the brain.
Left that to marinate, in fact.
That to marinate. Because otherwise he wouldn't have been gay, because gay people have all trauma, and that's where being gay comes from, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
The only mark remaining is that handprint.
Yes, that then scars over and continues to be a running, not quite theme, just running... Symbolism, a running symbol throughout the rest of the show.
He's connected to Castiel
Yeah.
for the rest of the time that he has that, because they
Indeed.
decide to get rid of it because it's too symbolic and...
And that's exactly the point of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's a long... several seasons of Castiel continuing to intervene, and he grows as, I will say, a person, because in the beginning, angels are supposed to be, they are soldiers, they are nothing else.
Castiel is beginning to doubt his purpose as an angel, as a soldier. And
as he's gaining humanity, because he loves humans so much, he is in love with humanity.
Yes, he is in love with humanity.
Yes.
Not a human. Don't dare say that he's in love with a human. There's that whole scene where Castiel's beginning to have his doubts, and Dean is explaining that, like, hey, I know what it's like to have a shitty father. Because my father was also shitty. One of the first times we actually get to hear Dean, like, acknowledging that his father was bad, because throughout the entire series he's painted as actually
idolized.
Dean absolutely idolizes him. He admits several times throughout the show that he got his wardrobe from him, his taste in music from him, his car from him, his personality from him, all in the hopes that he would get his father's approval. He never did.
He never did, and then that is why he presumably is so hyper-masculine, to the point that it is queer coding itself that he is so hyper-masculine.
Absolutely. They poke so much fun at it in so many instances in the earlier seasons that they have actually just confirmed it. There were so many written instances of Dean and Castiel's, like, tension. There's the longing looks, there's the sly comments under the breath, there's a whole scene where, the pizza man scene. There is one instance where Dean is in, like, their safe haven at the time for the season, watching porn in the open, and Castiel shows up
As
unannounced.
any true American red-blooded man would. You're watching porn out in the open.
Yeah. Not in the
Yeah.
privacy of your own bedroom, shelter, whatever. It's fine.
Whatever.
Just out in the living room with other people around. Sure.
Yes.
This whole scene is Sam and Dean discussing what they're going to do, what the plan is, and also now Cass is here, and now they have to deal with an angel, which is wild. And then Castiel says, I don't understand. If the pizza man loves the babysitter, why does he keep hitting her behind? Yes. And there's also Dean making a comment very loudly that now Castiel has an erection, which
Right.
they didn't need to include that.
No homo, but
No homo, but I'm
noticing
looking.
that your dick is hard, and I'm interested in that, so I'm going to make a comment about it out loud.
Ben Edlund actually said in the commentary of season 8 on the DVD that the way that he had written Dean Winchester is very possible to have interpreted him as bisexual. And then he left the show. So if we despise this show as much as we have made it out to be, then why are we here talking about it? Why are we color-coded?
2.5 years after it ended.
One word. DESTIEL. The ship name of Dean Winchester and Castiel. Oh boy, where do I even start?
It was not only the producers, the writers that came together on this, it was also the actors who really fed into it, and that is partially why it continues to live on for so much longer than it realistically should have. Both were very comfortable within themselves to make jokes about it. There is a blooper scene from season 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. It cuts to Jensen Ackles, who plays Dean Winchester, walking around a set looking for Misha Collins, who plays Castiel, and asking, where's the gay angel? This was far before it was really super mainstream, I think, or it was in the height of it. So then it just begs the question, why are you a paid actor why are even you buying into this, and why are even you commenting on this?
Yeah.
When the fans who buy into it and comment on it online are kind of dissuaded from continuing to do this. There's the reassurance that no, Dean Winchester is a heterosexual. He is into women so much so that it hurts himself and them.
There was one instance specifically that went down in history where somebody asked the cast if Dean could be bisexual because they were bisexual, and it would mean a lot to them to have a character that they really related to.
And again, the representation, the queerness of the fans, it eventually just became a queer show, possibly almost at gunpoint by fans who at this point were so committed to the concept of Castiel and the hope that he presented to queer fans that finally, there'll be somebody that we can actually like and enjoy. Because he has these little funny mannerisms, he's a little funny dude, he's a little weird.
He was a little autistic coded too.
He was a little autistic coded too.
Latched onto,
yes.
Which understandably so. I believe it was Jensen who answered very hostily and was like, no, what are you talking about? That's stupid. And this girl ended up crying, and it was a very big deal in the fandom because they're the fans are such a big part of Supernatural, and to be kind of treated that way was very upsetting for this girl.
By one of the main
characters. It was very upsetting for this girl. It was very upsetting for the fandom. There were a lot of people at the con that then were very mean to her because it was almost as if
the public shaming,
the public shaming of it,
people
that Jensen
like you
had kind of
who
started.
have these delusions.
Yeah,
sorry.
It was that's a very good point. It was we were marked as delusional.
Yeah.
By the cast, by
even though it's fictional characters, and anything can happen because it's fictional characters.
It's fiction.
Right.
So DESTIEL was pretty consistently one of the most popular ships on Tumblr for a very long time.
Yes.
In fact, in 2021, it actually won best ship in Tumblr's year in review, beating out both Sam Bucky from Marvel's Winter Soldier and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Lokius, which was Loki and Mobius from the Marvel show Loki. Both two incredibly popular ships. Supernatural ship DESTIEL beat both of those in 2021 despite being off the air since 2020.
Being off the air in November 2020.
Yes. And speaking of the train wreck.
Speaking of November 2020, let me set the scene. It was November 5th.
November 5th, 2020. Castiel officially confesses to
After
Dean Winchester,
11 years.
which I actually watched on TV and I was freaking out the entire time. So basically the premise of this episode was that they are being chased by Death, who wants both of them dead, wants the essentially...
Death personified.
Death personified.
Not just they are being
who
chased
was
by
not
Death.
the first Death. It was actually the second Death. It was a whole thing. Her name was Billy. We
I was
loved
going
her.
to say, speak for yourself. Continue.
She felt for the longest time that the Winchesters interfered with the natural chain of events and stopped things that were supposed
Because
to
they
happen.
kept dying and coming back.
Oh yeah, that was another thing. She did not like that they kept dying and coming back to life. That was not very chill with her. Billy is chasing Dean and Castiel. He eventually they go into a room with a lock on the door,
right.
and Castiel remembers that he had actually made He made a deal with the person who was in charge of the Empty, which is the final resting place that monsters and angels and demons go when they are killed. And essentially what the person in charge, in charge of the Empty had said to Castiel was, in a moment of where he felt like true happiness, that was when he would be claimed and have to go to the Empty, colloquially known as Super Hell. And so what did Castiel do to feel that moment of pure, unadulterated happiness? He confessed his love to Dean Winchester.
His presumably unreciprocated love to Dean Winchester.
Platonic love. Say it's platonic love.
Platonic love. Say no homo right now. I'll start crying.
Say no homo right now. Castiel goes on this whole, monologue.
Monologue.
It was beautiful.
Shakespearean, dare I say.
It was fantastic. He's
right.
explaining how he rebelled for humanity because of this one human. He can't imagine himself without this person. This is his family, his
had
best
taught
friend.
Him so much, and
he changed
instilled
for the
instilled with him a sense of personhood rather than just being another
a soldier, an object, really.
An object of God's plan, etc. So then after this beautiful, stunning, absolutely amazing monologue by Castiel, who is now at this point more person than he is angel. Yeah. He's learned so much. He has so much more empathy. He has feelings. He has emotions. He can feel love at this point. We don't know in the beginning if he really even could, or if he was just like, this one's pretty. I like this one.
Yeah.
So now he's a person.
He confesses. He says, I love you.
I love you.
And
crying.
Dean Winchester, kind of blanked macho man face. He's doing that thing where he's just like,
so painfully awkward.
At one point, he even says, Cass, don't do this. Cass, don't do what? Sir? You made him fall in love with you.
Yeah, don't make it meaningful now, dude.
Don't
ruin it.
Just say no homo. Say no homo right now.
I did not ask, but you're telling me anyway.
Mm-hmm. And then Castiel is taken by the Empty.
In a rather, traumatic way. He's encapsulated in black goo.
Black goo, and he just kind of vanishes, leaving Dean Winchester alone.
At which point he takes out his phone and he goes to the only other person that he cares about in this world, his brother.
And that's the end of the episode.
And that's the end of the episode because fuck Misha Collins. Fuck Misha Collins. And
bye. It's been real.
It's been real, man. Go to hell permanently now, even though you were a fixture on the show. Super hell.
Gays go to super hell. Gay angels go to super hell because fuck them. But then,
as if we couldn't drag this out further. So finally, again, years of queerbaiting, years of longing glances and subtext.
Oh, the subtext.
Years and years and years of this, of purposeful drawing fans out and making them stay longer. That is the ending that they get. And even still, it's not enough. It's not enough because then a couple months later, weeks or months later, we get
the Spanish dub.
What is referred to as the Spanish dub in the tinfoil hat, echo chamber that we're part of.
Because in the Spanish dub, as opposed to just saying nothing, as Dean had done in the original airing of the show, he says "iot," which means "and I, you." So Castiel says "I love you," and Dean says it back.
We have to assume that this was not encouraged or allowed inherently
they got in a lot of trouble for that. So this is where the tinfoil hats go on, because there were multiple different sources stating that this was the original cut of the script,
right?
And they had just
script leaks were coming out hot.
Yes, the script leaks were coming out saying that that's actually what it was supposed to say, and that actually the original episode had so many altered things, and they cut dialogue, and
they were filming in different rooms, and that's why Jensen as Dean looked so blank-faced, because he didn't have anything to work off of with Castiel, played by Misha,
and also there were allegedly scenes from the next episode that were cut where Jensen Ackles was screaming in despair so loudly that he could be heard from streets over. All of that cut mysteriously, according to these script leaks, and according to all of these people who had worked on, like, Supernatural. Castiel does not come back until, like, the last episode off-screen.
Off-screen.
Which is mentioned by another character, not even Dean.
Not even Dean. It's mentioned to Dean by another character. Very casually. Also, a beloved character, to be fair. This was not just some messenger boy. Castiel's in heaven with you.
Yeah. By the way, Castiel's back, but, like, you're not going to see him.
But it's this very casual mention of, like, oh, Cass is back, as if he wasn't on the show.
As if he wasn't one of the people who made the decision to end the show after the 15th season.
So much merch, was featured on as like an esteemed person on so many different
I own several of his pop vinyls. These are not the only two I own. These just happen to be the ones that are signed.
Because he was a beloved character, and in the end he was reduced to, oh yeah, Cass is also here because just mentioned.
Wasn't even in briefly. The final episode he was mentioned. That's it. Which a lot of people believe was because of COVID, because the show was supposed to end much sooner, but because of the pandemic, had to be pushed back, and filming took place much later.
Some characters had to be cut in certain scenes, had to be spliced around, but
the very last shot of season 15, episode 20, the very last episode of Supernatural, they pan out and they have well over 100 people standing on a bridge thanking people for watching Supernatural. So what is the truth?
Doesn't seem very guideline conscious to me, but okay, guys.
They killed off Dean Winchester in the very end, as your shirt says.
I'd rather be impaled by a rusty nail.
That's how they killed him. That was how they killed him. He fell backwards onto a rusty nail, and he died. And that was it. And they brought back a character that nobody remembered or cared about for some reason. Nobody understood that. It made absolutely zero sense. And then that's just how the show ended.
So, again, like, why do we continue watching the show? Because it sparks something.
Yeah.
It sparks something in our tiny brains that's like, yeah, okay, this makes me feel happy. But there are just so many pervasive problems with it that, like, despite the comfort that it brings.
Some fan fiction were love letters to canon. Some were hate mail to canon.
Some were hate mail. Openly just
a lot more hate mail after the show ended. I will be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's why we reached, what was the number? I have no idea what the number was, but on AO3 it was over like 250,000 fan fictions. We were the first fandom to reach over some obscene number on Archive of Our Own.
Very high number.
I eventually want a written apology.
I do. I want a written apology from Eric Kripke, from Jeremy Carver, Ben Edlund, Jensen Ackles, Misha Collins, especially Jared Padalecki. He knows what he did. I could go on.
I could go on. Yeah. Fun show, though. Very fun show. Would highly recommend. If you have months to kill just watching every single one of these episodes in quick succession, then Godspeed. I tried to over the pandemic, and it was a journey, and it was fun.
Great time. Thanks for watching. Happy Pride Month.
please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to anyone who also has brain rot and been personally hurt by any of the shows that you will ever talk about on this program.
Make sure you subscribe if you have also been personally victimized by any of the shows that we have talked about ever on this channel.
Right. And follow the show on social media and give it attention because it's fun to have representation that actually matters.
Links down below.
Links are down below. Thank you.